What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video of Rail Empire 2. Things have exploded in growth. As you guys know, we are doing an aggressive expansion today. I am attacking one of my competitors in yellow, seen in the bottom right. They are exploding and expanding fast, but there's a twist to something here, and I'm going to show you guys that in a second. But we're going to talk about Brownsville. So Brownsville is the biggest city, over 200,000 citizens. I don't know how that happened, but I feel like as we progress to 1840, hopefully we'll see skyscrapers, and maybe we'll see, even bigger skyscrapers down the road. I mean, you look at this is a massive area. Now, if you guys don't know, in order to surpass 100,000 citizens in a city, you need a university. But there's a catch to that. Having a university means that you pay all the scholarships for people. Yeah, you get more freight revenue, more citizens, more mail. On the downside, you have to pay scholarships for colleges and for people. On top of that, we have expanded since the last video by a long shot. We got Torion over here that is up and running, and unfortunately I made a horrible strategic decision to put a clay manufacturer down there, knowing that clay and coal are not nearby. Not on top of that either, because of how hilly this region is, trains can only go about 2 miles an hour going up these hills, pulling 8 cars of all this heavy shit. So down here in Brownsville, I'm starting to face issues where trains are waiting on each other, which is interesting because I feel like maybe I should delete some of the expanded buildings down here. All right, with how busy this place is, I would like to have a dispatch hall so I can move cars around and get stuff done. All right, so moving up to our expansion and everything, we have pushed off this way. Everything up here, mostly in this area, is just traffic. A few supplies from here to here, freight trains that are running between here, just one, and mostly passenger and express. But the aggressive expansion we're talking about today is, and this will probably be in 2 different videos for the most part, on top of trying to combat the AI, I made very strategic decisions to blow really hard on our yellow competitor. Let's figure out, what is his name? Walter. Okay, Walter. Hit Walter really hard. So before we get to that, we're going to be working with Chihuahua, Alpine, Odessa, Abilene, and Dallas. These will connect in a straight line all the way down to Chihuahua, and hopefully they will connect eventually sometime to Torion and move off to Las Mochis. Pretty sure I said that correctly, although I'm not convinced I did. But moving on. So up here, I had an idea. So corn is needed everywhere. I mean, it's needed all over these cities. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to buy this corn factory or this corn producer and probably any other solid necessities the city needs, because then that's going to hurt because it's not a rural business, so then it can't automatically upgrade itself to help the supply and demand to these cities, which means I can just sit here and leave this at level 1, and the more and more that they move trains and everything to move it everywhere, they only have 14 cars they can achieve. Now obviously I'm losing money having it, but I can spend and have this issue and really hurt them versus let them keep it and let it explode. We could also do the same with the wheat and anything, but I don't want to buy so much that I can't support it all. Look how crazy this man has gone. He wanted to put a track so far up here to screw with Boston. Instead of adding a track right here and adding it, he drove it all the way around. He's got these people completely blocked in here. If you don't know, you can't really cross tracks without building a bridge, to my knowledge. And so him doing this has them completely stuck in here and everything. So these competitors aren't going anywhere. Walter wants to push them out. Another thing too, I don't know what their beef is about that, but they only use grasshoppers. We know that they have the upgrades needed to replace their trains and put something else up there, but for whatever reason, the AI will only use the grasshopper. I mean, look at this. That only goes a max of 22 miles an hour. So in our attempt to aggressively expand out and over these areas or whatever, I'm also trying to expand outwards this way, combat and achieve Charleston before Walter can or whatever. And that's where I think we'll make our first ever encounter with Walter, in which I'm going to demolish him, because I actually own a good amount of his company shares as well, in an attempt to get rid of him. Now, for a small disclaimer, this area, this world that we're on right now, the AI is on normal. I mean, there's still two more levels. There's advanced and expert. I have no doubt in my mind that those levels that they would be, dominating me actually. Houston to Corpus Christi or Brownsville is a huge passenger line that I have found. I run nothing but the craziest amount of passengers from Houston to Corpus Christi or down to Brownsville all the time. We need to line this up. I want a perfect line that's gonna, line us up completely and bring us down through here. El Paso has no room for this right now. We have this area right here ready to go for the most part of where these freight tracks are lined out for this area, because since, most of these supplies are running down to like Del Rio, down to Laredo, Monterey, and Torreon. But then it comes to the hard part. How do I want to run this issue? How do I want to put this in, in my specs? We have 4 years to go until we get our first faster express train that looks like a train that's got a cab. I want to make sure. If you guys see me on the tracks, remember at an 8-train station, the 4 inner tracks are express, the 2 outer tracks are freight. That is to combat, since I want to run freight trains and connect them better on the outskirts so they don't, cross express tracks instead and have express trains slow down. Even though you can actually take 4 tracks and split all 4 of them off from 4 separate tracks. I mean, it looks like a really crazy conjunction, but it's really solid. Alright, getting on with this, I've built our first 2 stations. Now something to keep in mind is that I want all these stations and all these little freight and side stations to connect. Obviously these 2 won't connect that well because Austin will run 4 tracks separate, or 8 tracks total. So 4 to Dallas, 4 to Abilene, Abilene to Dallas will have 4, and that'll tie up one side of the station, also tie up the other side of the station for Dallas. So that means the 2 outer tracks will look something like this. Where 2 lines are merging or splitting. That's normally how it'll always go. Now, unfortunately, nothing is great. All the locations that need milk or need, important materials are on the other side of our network. It takes a really long time for things to get there. Obviously, there's always room for improvement, but for the most part, we are hoping to have cloth to make dresses, to supply Brownsville and Corpus Christi with everything. We also have to be careful. The more we connect, the more the game is going to want us to connect those lines first before we connect the other ones. So we can't really, plan out too far ahead. But I also have to, look at how much there is like, hills. So right there, I want to avoid that. All this right here is about the same flatness in the area, so it would be cheap to run it, but we do have a hill right here. We'd have to, get up and around a little bit. The higher and the more like lightly colored they are, as we see here, is the higher the elevation is and the more, your train has to travel up something. Up here in our very first video we released, we can see that we have Omaha, Topeka, Kansas City, Wichita, and OKC. All right, we're eventually going to take over that area. We're only focused on creating passenger lines right now. Shreveport has these 4 lines set up, but only 2 of them are being utilized. Now, why I set up 4 lines to go, elsewhere, even though we're running one measly little train on this, I don't know. But eventually, we'll switch this line over to these 4, and we'll send this one off to New Orleans, which this looks like a great place to build a fucking bridge. That's going to be a horrible place to build a bridge. It already costs like 75 grand for those little rivers. This is something else. This is like $1 million. The next thing I want to do is that because I'm running 8 tracks here, I want all the 8 tracks coming into the station to be unison. So let me quickly do that. Alright, so there we go. Now we have all 8 tracks running in unison, and I do this, as you guys know, so that way, trains can, go around. They can choose different tracks. They don't all need to be trying to fight for 4 tracks, because we have trains coming from both south and north. Now, right now, Shreveport is only really receiving an express line between Beaumont and Shreveport, and that's really it. I didn't really do much else besides that. Usually when I construct new cities, they're just express lines. That's all they ever will be until I can get to them and really think, design, and figure out how I want to run freight tracks merging into them. This game is all about slow time, thinking, and thought. Now, right here we set up 4 tracks. However, we're only using 2 of them. We're using these 2 inner ones since the other 2 are freight, and we will connect 4 lines here later Alright guys, so we're back here, a little change of scenery, but here's what I'm talking about passenger freight and mail is this train right here. I mean, this is from Brownsville up to Torreon. I don't know what it is about this place that has a lot of mail and passengers, but it does. For 29,000 people, there is more freight and passenger express income coming out of this city than there ever was in any of the other cities that we had. Alright, back on our expansion project. So here's our train station in Abilene. Now, usually I like to, route straight there, but I don't know, I like to give my track some curvature. I mean, yeah, that, really kind of slows down and, our time and money philosophy, but I don't like to see just, a straight track going for miles. Okay, so that looks great. We're not running anymore. We're not running 8 tracks all the way out there and back. Complete waste. We've already spent like 800 grand just building these 4 tracks out here, but only 2 of them are being utilized. Believe it or not, even though these are settlements, they actually have passengers that you can pick up and take from here. Now that we have this going here, I anticipate a hotline from Abilene will be down to Austin or San Antonio, being that even though they are settlements, you surprisingly can move passengers and mail from them. They're not like incredibly down. What is that? Is that a coal pit right there? What is that? Private property. This area is privately owned and you cannot build on it. This is their idea of an oil platform. Alright, so again, we'll run the same outer track like this. The outer track, as normal, is the freight line, and that is usually the only track that I run from here to here. And we gotta build this like location. That is just annoying right there. Somebody's gotta walk through someone's backyard to get to the train station. That's fucked up. Okay, so we have Abilene, Odessa. Now we just need to connect to Alpine down here. So it is no secret to myself that Odessa will connect directly to El Paso. Alpine will connect to Odessa. Moving on downwards, Odessa will probably actually end up connecting either down to the sugar mine, or we'll split that off and make kind of like a, another stop where the freight line can continue on down and you can have kind of a direct connection as much as I can down to San Antonio, which we can do that. We just have to move things around and rework this little track area. Alright guys, we are back. Our line to Alpine is complete, and we will decide, we'll have a part 2 or maybe another expansion when we connect El Paso and try to make a push for all these little areas around here. I had to reroute the Young train station in Collins Rest. However, if you guys don't know, this is a big one. If you guys delete a train station, you have 4 weeks to place it back down. This means one of the quality of life improvements to Rail Empire 2 is that when you destroyed a train station, all the train lines or rail lines attached to that station were deleted as well. But in this version, you have 4 weeks to place down that exact same train station, or at least back at these areas, and those lines continue. We rerouted and redesigned this loop to allow for a loop right here, so that way we could supply corn to Alpine, Odessa, Abilene, and so on, which will be a big thing in helping them grow, as well as getting ready to set up for Lubbock and Dallas connections, because obviously Lubbock and Dallas will eventually connect into Oklahoma City, or maybe something like that, or maybe we'll have just a warehouse out here that'll be like an interchange building for everybody. On top of that, I still need to connect Austin and some of these areas around here, because the wood would be really nice, not only in the Austin and San Antonio area, but also helping assist any of these other areas as well in that connection. That would be a solid buy and a solid maneuver on my part. That's really it to it. I mean, it took a while to design everything. And if I look at contour, what we have over here, yeah, we could definitely route it down and through this way right here. We didn't want to spend like 30 grand to route it over this. We could cut through here, cut up and around here, but all of these Indian reservations are just strategically placed around the map to where they cut off the easiest way. So either you just slap yourself in the face, pay the money, the expensive cost to get it there, or you wait around for the Indian village to disappear, because they move around the map. For an example, there was an Indian village right here, and I wanted to connect to Torreon, but to run a train up this hill and down and around through here would have been hard. Because of how deep these lines go and everything, they're too steep for you to just run a track straight up and over them without, really honestly, the game would decide, all right, you're making a tunnel. All right, here's $2.5 million in costs. Voila. So you kind of just have to snake your way up. I mean, that's what I had to do over here just to get this stuff to connect. And even then, even with me snaking that, because of their stupid city limits here, I could only get about to right here. Their city limits went all the way up here, like anybody's going to build on the side of a sandy mountain. And yeah, I had to just suck it up and built the tunnel right through here. But, well, without further ado, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, you hit that subscribe button, you like, you comment, let me know how we can play. I do got a Discord server still in the works, but it'll be up pretty soon. I estimate around sometime in July I'll have it up and running for the most part. It's just finding the time to work on it and, you know, keeping up with all the other obligations I have in my life. But aside from that, that's all I have for you, and I will see you guys back here next time in another video.